Can animals be malevolent? Or evil and cruel in intent? For a long time, my answer to this question was probably the same as many of you out there, which is no. They're not necessarily cruel or malevolent, because it's not really appropriate to judge an animal by standards that you would use for a human being. When we see animals in the wild, we see behaviors that strike us as absolutely brutal, like dominating or killing, or even cannibalizing their own species. We still keep in mind the fact that animals are simply doing what they need in order to survive. In other words, a lion or a predatory cat just wants to eat you. Doesn't want to see you fail, doesn't want to have your family subjected to poverty or anything purposefully cruel and indignant, just for its own malevolent viewing pleasure. I've actually given the matter some thought over the years, and I've since changed my mind about it, and I want to explain to you why. First of all, I think that the above thinking that I described is generally pretty logically sound reasoning, but I think that maybe that is the problem with it. It's too general. I've been an avid watcher of nature documentaries over the years because I'm truly fascinated with animals that I have either never had the chance to interact with, like ancient dinosaurs or giant arthropods, to the beautiful, striking creatures that still inhabit the earth with whom we rarely, if ever, get a chance to interact with due to our normal daily responsibilities. So to me, it all begins with the famous quote from the ancient Japanese haiku poet Matsuo Basho, who said, "Go to the pine trees if you want to learn about the pine trees, or to the bamboo if you want to learn about the bamboo. And in doing so, you must leave your subjective preoccupation with yourself behind." So let's go to the pine trees for a moment. In other words, let's draw on our own specific, observable experiences. Have you ever owned a pet like a dog or a cat? Have you had several? Or at least have you observed several pets, like a family members or a friend's? You've probably noticed that even if they're the same species or the same breed, when you observe an animal up close, it's pretty clear that they have personalities. For most species, they do seem to follow the trend of energetic and playful when young, and more retiring and less aggressive when getting older. But in between, if you have experiences seeing animals up close, they definitely have their own personalities and quirks. They're sometimes very warm and happy to be around people. They sometimes tend to like to be on their own. They can be warm, they can be affectionate, and they can be, well, mean. I remember an old friend of mine had a pair of cockatiels, a male and a female, and the male just seemed to hate the female. It was like some odd avian misogynist. He would just keep her bald. What I mean is, he would constantly bite the feathers growing around her head and strip them down to the skin. He didn't necessarily try and fight and kill her. It didn't seem to have much to do with mating and dominance rituals. I've seen many cockatiels in cages living together and peacefully cohabitating, but this particular male just had it out for the female. And I don't mean once or twice. When I saw this friend, it was maybe once a year or so. So every time I went to his house and saw the birds, the female was always in a state of baldness. Now this is just a small example, but a real, actual, specific example of one animal being kind of mean to another. But it was not the example that truly convinced me. And please, don't think that I'm just here to badmouth animals. I'm not saying that animals are cruel. I'm just pointing out that just as surely as humans have personalities that range from kind to cruel, animals also have a wide range of personalities, and they are capable of being spiteful, which came as a surprise to me. So on the other side of the spectrum, even though watching nature documentaries can be very harsh, it can also be very hopeful. Animals have been observed engaging in behaviors that are extremely human. For example, did you know that gorillas are ticklish? They've also been observed showing behaviors that are benevolent and downright heroic. I remember a long time ago seeing a video of a rodeo in which a dog came out of nowhere to literally grab a bull by the nose to save a man's life. Once when I was in Japan, a coworker and I were talking about nature, and I told him that one of the most hopeful things I have ever seen while watching nature documentaries, it was a time that I saw a hippopotamus save another animal, an impala, from a crocodile somewhere in Africa. It must have come out of my mouth funny because his immediate reaction to that sentence was to laugh. But if I can hopefully articulate the concept better, what I meant was that it was very hopeful for me to see actual benevolence among animals. We tend to think that all their behaviors are harsh and brutal calculations to survive, and necessarily, many of them are. But in between, there are times when one species of animal will actually take a risk to help out a completely different species of animal. I mean, really, what does this hippo get from saving the impala? There's no food benefit, there's no mating rights, there's no rising in its social hierarchy, not for money or for profit, not for lasting fame or anything like that. The fact that one animal went out of its way and took an actual risk to its own safety and helped another animal seems to prove that somewhere, on some level, this hippo, this wild animal, felt like it was the right thing to do. And so we can't say that animals know nothing of benevolence. Now, moving to our main event, I would put it that there are many species that act in a way that just seems completely alien to us humans. A nest of spider eggs hatches, and the babies will immediately set out and eat their mother. It's just not really relatable to us. Whereas other species like common dogs and cats exhibit behaviors that we can really empathize with, that we can really seem to understand. I think the Disney movie The Lion King did a good job in choosing the species of lion and hyena to represent the hero and the villain archetype for the story. When you observe lions in the wild, they certainly have a reputation for fighting like, well, lions. But there really is a tenderness and an affection that they show to each other that is really relatable. You see them licking each other and greeting each other, and you kind of really feel what they are feeling. Whereas hyenas, they don't have that similar tenderness. They're always ruled by a female tyrant who keeps them in line because she's the biggest and the toughest, and they don't seem to have that warm affection and support that lions do. They seem to symbolize the doctrine of might makes right and bully the weaker and meeker members of the group. If a lion is in pain, this might elicit sympathy from its family. But if a hyena is in pain, the clan might see it as a chance to gain status, and they might just kill it off for weakness. In an episode of Savage Kingdom, I saw an example of animal malevolence which just blew me away. Savage Kingdom, by the way, is a terrific series from National Geographic, which I couldn't recommend more highly. Not only does it follow the struggles of many major African predators in the jungle, but it is also narrated by Charles Dance. Yes, Tywin Lannister himself, with his distinctive voice of authority and intelligence. Anyway, in one of the episodes, things had progressed to a point in the hyena clan where there was a mutiny brewing. The tyrant queen had lost the confidence of the group when she was caught hoarding food for herself. Around then, the regular members had turned against her and her spoiled daughter, the princess of the clan who wasn't skilled at fighting, but would eat much more of her share because she was the daughter of the leader. The clan turned on her and brutally killed her. This is not really so shocking, as I had seen hyenas kill weak members of their clans before while observing hyena behavior. The really shocking part was what they did next. They brought the head of the daughter and placed it in front of the mother, and I was just blown away. Wow. Here is an example of behavior that has nothing to do with the basics that we think of when it comes to animals. Nothing to do with mating, nothing to do with feeding or, getting food, finding shelter. Here is an example of animals doing something just to show another of their kind just how they feel about her, just to make her feel bad. Again, wow. My final thought as I wrap up this video is, again, to point out that I'm not showing this to prove that animals are cruel and malevolent, but to blow up the myth that animals can't be cruel or malevolent, and to say that Basho's simple but brilliant technique is very useful. If you want to learn about the pine trees, go to the pine trees. Don't be content with the general. Observe close and learn something from the specific. I hope you enjoyed this video and thank you for watching. Mite kurete, arigatou gozaimasu. Sayonara.